Hey friends, the September gardens are looking full and fabulous, and I'm still enjoying a lot of blooms. My name is Bobby, and I'm glad you joined me here today on Gardening on Taylor Mountain. These are Benary's giants, and of course, there's always a lot of deadheading to be done so that we can keep our plants producing and pumping out blooms. The Benary's giants have done so well for me for several years, and I really enjoy growing them. The smaller, shorter zinnia in front is called Zesty Mix, and it's basically a bedding plant zinnia. This is Rocket Snapdragons, and this is their second flush of blooms for me. When the weather starts cooling down, the snapdragons start putting on more blooms, and they enjoy the cooler weather. This is Queen Lime Orange zinnia that you're seeing here. I'm not sure why I didn't grow any other in the Queenie series this year. I grew these from seed, but the only one I grew this year is the Queen Lime Orange. I just love orange in the garden. I don't know what it is with me and orange, but I really, really love orange. This is the Saving Grace Dahlia from North Lawn Flower Farm. I grew these from the seed that was given to me. And I'm loving the Saving Grace. The pollinators just love it. It's producing so many different colors, red, white, yellow, kind of a bicolor there you're seeing, and pink. And of course you have to watch for the bees when you're deadheading. The bees are always come first, you got to let them do their thing. This is QIS Orange Gomphrena. I love the QIS series that means quality in seed, in case you were wondering. But the QIS orange, I love, of course, there's orange again. I love it for drying, and then just makes a really nice little accent in a bouquet. This is called Belle of Barmera. This is a dinner plate dahlia, and I have it attached to a trellis. Of course, deadheading there, so your dahlias will keep producing. I'm really enjoying this dahlia. I love the bloom on it. I haven't tried it in a vase, which I should. They say the dinner plate dahlias don't work as well in a vase, but I think I've used a few of them. I had, I think it was Labyrinth before, but this is Belle of Barmera, and I can see where the Velcro tie came loose, so I love those Velcro ties for tying up plants. And this is more of the Saving Grace Dahlia. You can see the pink bloom there. Just so happy with them. This celosia, this is Flamingo celosia. It self-seeded itself. You can see it's quite messy there. I didn't grow any celosia from seed this year because I know about celosia that it self-seeds itself for me everywhere. And you can see I basically left it for the pollinators. I do have some Cosmo there that my garden assistant Angelette planted for me, but I'm getting ready to harvest some of this celosia blooms for drying. Some of these bigger blooms that you're seeing there that have formed almost a coxcomb type head, I'm going to dry those and use those for my dried flower Christmas tree. And of course, the pollinators are crazy about celosia. That's basically the main reason that I let them stay in the garden, is because I know that the pollinators love them, but the celosia would definitely take over my garden. I'm crazy also about growing salvias. Here's another Saving Grace dahlia. I'm loving this obelisk. This is an Amish-made obelisk that I got in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. But that's the Saving Grace dahlia. Isn't she sweet? And as I said, I love salvia. You're going to see a lot of salvia coming up in the video. This is Pentas, and I just stuck a little ornamental cabbage in there, or it might be a ornamental kale. This is the dahlia that a bunny ate completely. It was as tall as the gate there, and a bunny ate it and snipped it off, and it's growing back. This is Melena Fleur, and I am loving this dahlia. It's so good for a cut flower. I'm really enjoying having Melena Fleur in the garden this year. Sweet little pollinator. We always have to keep our pollinators going in the garden. Here's another view of the rocket snapdragons, and somehow an orange zinnia got stuck in there. I don't know how that must be a seed from last year, but I'm so happy that the rocket snapdragons put on their fall or their late summer blooms. Here's another view of the Zesty Mix. And I'm using an overhead sprinklers this year that has just worked fantastic for me. I have not had any fungal diseases that you would think you would get. This is rooster peppers, and they're not edible. At least I don't think they are, but I'm getting ready to dry these for autumn decorations. These are Lisianthus. I didn't grow nearly as many Lisianthus as I normally do, but this is their second flush, maybe their third flush of blooms. And again, Lisianthus will perk up in the cooler when the nights are cooler and the days are a little bit cooler. They'll perk up and start putting on more blooms for you. But aren't they beautiful? And you saw some tall ageratum there. I grew that from seed. I dry a lot of that, and I use it in bouquets. This is Gomphrena, several different varieties of Gomphrena, and just a bedding plant of marigolds there. This little pot here has become quite a mess, but I'm starting to transition it over. You can see some of my lights there that I'll talk to you about in just a moment. But I did a lot of bedding plants this year just because I wanted to see what I wanted in these new flower bed configurations, of course, along with more Saving Grace dahlias. I just can't get over them. I love them so much. Of course, the pollinators love the Saving Grace dahlias as much as I do. In this bed, you see Gara and Victoria Blue Salvia, and in the center of that bed is a dwarf crepe myrtle. I didn't think that crepe myrtle was going to bloom this year, so I'm so happy that it did. I love the combination of plants that I have in this bed. The Gara may perennialize for me. It's kind of on the borderline, but I'm going to leave it and see if it will perennialize. Here's another view of the QIS orange, Gomphrena. And this is just a bedding plant of ageratum just in there for the pollinators, and it's bloomed nonstop this year. This Cleome has bloomed nonstop as well. I've not deadheaded it. I've fertilized it a couple of times, but really not paid a lot of attention to it. I've enjoyed having that in the garden. More salvia, and this pink salvia here, I can't remember the exact name, but it's been real sweet. The pollinators and the hummingbirds love it. Lobelia there just peeking under. I tried to just pair colors together, and of course another shot of the Belle of Marmira, the dinner plate dahlia. It just keeps pumping out blooms. I'm just loving that. And you're seeing me here now. I decided to add a couple more solar lights to the garden space. I've always had lighting of some sort in my garden space, but this year I kind of went all out. Of course, I was inspired by a couple of different gardeners that I've watched, but I'm loving having the solar lights in my garden space this year. I will link the solar lights that I have in my garden in the description below, and I'll also show you some nighttime shots, so do be sure and stick with me to the end. I'll show you the nighttime shots at the end of this video, but you have to make sure you turn your solar lights on, of course, and kind of spread them out. Those particular ones I love because they look like little sparklers in the garden, and you can go out at night and just see all these little bursts of light. It's super fun having those in the garden. Next, you're going to see my very last succession of Pro-Cut sunflowers, and also our fall lettuce is doing great. These beds are from Epic Gardening. They're Birdie's beds. I love them for food, for growing food. My beans are done. I'm getting ready to blanch and freeze the last 2 harvests of those, and the cucumbers are done. These were Diva cucumbers. They did great for us. The tomatoes are still pumping out quite a few fruit for us. We're waiting for their fruit to ripen up, But these goat panel trellises have worked great for tying up the tomatoes. And we, of course, we used T-post to secure them, but they've done really, really well. And my sunflowers, a lot of my Pro-Cut sunflowers blew over in a rainstorm. So I'm leaving those for the birds now, and I'll save a few of the flower heads to have for the winter for the birds as well. A few little bell peppers there and some basil. Since my garden assistant Angelette has started back on school, she's not here to deadhead for me, but this is Tribola rudbeckia. I just love it. Of course, straw flowers. The straw flowers are producing more flowers now that it's turned cooler as well. They love the cooler temperatures. Little sunflower reaching up to the sky. Beautiful tiger swallowtail butterfly. More Pro-Cut sunflowers. You can see what the winds do to Pro-Cuts if you don't have them staked up or if you don't have something to protect them. This is sunspot sunflowers. They're a short branching sunflower. And look at the flower head. I'm getting ready to dry that one for sure on that celosia. It's just gone kind of crazy. This is more self-seeded celosia. I did not sow any of this, and I decided to control the amount that I have, so I did pull out quite a bit of the celosia, but I did leave some so that I could use some in bouquets and leave some for the pollinators. This is a rudbeckia here. And more yarrow, more of the yellow yarrow getting ready to produce more blooms. It's a cool weather flower as well. This is called, I believe it's Dragon's Breath or something, celosia. It's just an annual that I bought, a bedding plant annual, and I've used it in some bouquets. I had a little blue glass vase. It looked fabulous. My garden assistant, Angelette, planted these zinnia for me, and they were supposed to be purple and orange. That does not look like purple to me. It looks like magenta. But the seed packet definitely said purple, but I'm loving them anyway. So I love those two colors together, but I was really hoping for more purple. But I'm not sure that I've ever seen a true purple zinnia. Now that I think about it, have you? I don't know. Sweet little butterfly. I'm so sad I have not seen any monarchs this year. I'm just so sad about that. But here's part of my perennial garden. We planted these perennial gardens together in a video, and I want to sit down and do a proper video just going back and reflecting about the perennial gardens with you. But for now, I'll show you a few things. Most of the plants in the perennial garden have already done their thing, and they're all over with. But it's important to keep our bird baths clean. So you'll see some footage in a minute of a beautiful goldfinch in this bird bath. And it's just a little solar fountain that I have for it. And also it's important to keep the solar fountains clean. I've found that out because they do kind of get gunked up with stuff. So you have to keep them clean in order for those to keep performing like they're supposed to. One of the things that I've found with the solar fountains is that they usually only last a couple of years, but that's okay, you know, they're not that expensive, and they're really nice to have if you don't have access to electricity in an area. But especially if you keep them clean, they will last quite a bit longer, protect them through the winter. They're just so sweet to have in the garden. And this female goldfinch, of course, is going to enjoy this bird bath here in a minute. And the goldfinch are especially loving the fact that I leave all of the echinacea seed heads in the garden for them. All of my echinaceas pretty much are done blooming. Of course, I could go in and deadhead them and probably get a shorter second flush of blooms, but I usually don't get time to do that. So the goldfinch are the ones that benefit from having the seed heads in the garden. This is goldenrod. It's a native plant here for me, and This is more of a tame cultivar than the ones you see on the side of the road, but the pollinators just love it. This is mountain mint. The pollinators love this one as well. This is tall phlox, a little bit of perennial phlox left over. This is a dwarf butterfly bush. And I'm so happy to have become a certified pollinator habitat. I qualified for that. You can see one of my echinaceas still blooming. This is the perennial ageratum we planted here. This is hoary skullcap, second flush of blooms for this. And of course the asters are getting ready to bloom for me. This is a second flush of bloom of Veronica. And now we're to the front of my house. This is a firelight tidbit that we planted together last autumn in containers. The heat and the drought has made their blooms turn a little bit more brown than I would like, but still they're doing great and being very happy. This alyssum here just has been pumping out its blooms nonstop. The rest of the things in this barrel aren't doing so great, but the alyssum is happy. This is Purple Majesty millet. I was getting ready to harvest the blooms to dry, and then I noticed it was throwing out more blooms, and I was like, oh, yay, I don't remember you ever doing that in the past. And of course, this is Macrophylla hydrangea. I've waited a little bit too long to get the blooms in blue to dry, but I will still dry these for my dried flower Christmas tree. And this is, guess what? Nigella. Self-seeded itself, will bloom in the spring. This is a little firelight tidbit. And this is, of course, my iris. I cut them back in the fan shape, and they will probably rebloom for me this autumn. I'm really enjoying having these. All cost $1. Each plant in this planter cost $1 at the end of the season. And hummingbird vine, you can see in there, the hummingbirds are really enjoying that. Coleus, some calibrachoa, just a fun little container. This salvia I planted here around the rose bush, and it has definitely worked to ward off some of the fungal diseases that rose bushes get, black spot and other things. I heard that this was the thing to do, so this is an annual salvia. This is Victoria Blue Salvia, and as I said earlier, you're going to see it all over my garden. This is the Lady of Shalott, climbing rose, David Austin short climbing rose. Really enjoying it. It's now putting on its fall blooms. Look at the color on that. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? These coleus cost $1 as well. There's probably 2, maybe 3 plants in there. This is the little quickfire, and looking fabulous as always. Now you're going to see my obsession with salvias and sages. All of the taller green that you see is pineapple sage, and I grow it for one reason, and that is the bloom. And the bloom will be coming on very soon here. It doesn't bloom until the autumn. It gets a beautiful red bloom, and it dries just perfectly. So it's quite crowded in this bed, but this is a sweet little dahlia here. Quite crowded with salvias and sages, and you can see some more coleus there. The culinary sage there gets kind of goopy looking during this time of year, but in the spring it was just gorgeous. I'm not even sure if I still have a picture of it to show you, but the blooms on it, there's some, what is that? Bogartan sage. And I also have some golden sage hiding down in there, but you can't even see it now. But look at this white salvia. Oh, I am in love with that this year, and the pollinators, of course. Behind that is little lime hydrangeas. If you saw my video where I thought I had killed my little limes because I pruned them so hard, but look how beautiful they are. A lot of this salvia I grew from seed. I can't tell which is which now, but anyway, loving it. This is lavender that I have growing in that little concrete planter, and then some touches of fall. You can see the purple fountain grass. I would have purple fountain grass everywhere if I could. I love it so much. And then that's ornamental kale or cabbage. I think it's ornamental cabbage. I can never keep those two straight. Under this cherry tree, you can see we have just a barrel of annuals growing. The coleus didn't hold up real well, but everything else did pretty good. These salvia that I grew from seed, this red salvia, of course, the hummingbirds are really enjoying that. And then the staple in my garden is basically these little lime hydrangeas. They perform so well, they're so reliable. Even though, like I said, I cut mine back really hard, they did great. There's some zinnia growing next to my greenhouse and some tall marigolds. All of that I grow from seed, and I usually grow it for drying. I do use a few in some bouquets, but mostly for drying for autumn arrangements and things like that. And then right next to my greenhouse, I decided to go ahead and plant this mini Mauvet smooth hydrangea in this container. And so I'm happy about that. On the top of the hill, near some other raised beds and things like that, you can see the cattle panel, that's hard to say, cattle panel arch trellis. My goal was to grow my pumpkins on it, and my pumpkins got stunted. I am just so sad about it. I've never had problem growing pumpkins. But anyway, there's always next year, right? This is broom corn, and I'm taking off the last of the blooms. I've gotten probably 20 blooms of the broom corn, and then you can see the amaranth there. This is the third flush, I think, of amaranth that I've cut. The first two were much taller, but I use this for drying, and then I do use a little bit of it in bouquets. I was so happy this year I did not get any four-line plant bugs growing or eating my amaranth. I don't know why they didn't find me, but I'm really thankful. But isn't that pretty? Just looks like autumn. And now here is a Vago garden bed that we moved to the top of this hill. As you can see, there's broccoli growing in there. And you can see I have it covered with bug netting, but sadly, army worms. I don't know how they got in there, but those little creatures, look at the damage they did. They're army worms. Army worms are black worms with a yellow stripe. So whenever you see them, you know that they're army worms. There's also some carrots sown in there and some beets, but the broccoli is going to be fine. Anyway, I really enjoyed you being here, and just hope you enjoy some more views of the garden here. Thank you so much for all of your support, and be sure and stay tuned for the nighttime views of all of the solar lights. Until next time, friends, happy gardening. Bye-bye.